All right, my name is Waylon Lewis, and I'm going to talk very slowly because no one is tuned in right now, and we are waiting for you to be here. And I am honored to be here with Nikki Myers. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be with you.
I have to make a comment about your cool pants, which are like army material, but like the, what do you call them? The
drop crotch.
Drop crotch. That's sexy. Who came up with that term? Drop crotch. There goes that fashion trend.
There you go.
Yeah. So where do you buy army drop crotch pants?
Oh my goodness.
Can I show them? Is that really weird? Oh yeah, you show them. That's less weird.
Here we go.
Oh, they're overall drop crotch army material.
Wait. Come on, let's do this.
This is a perfect lead up for people to tune in.
Yeah. How about that?
Oh my God.
I know.
So cool.
Thank you. And pockets. And I got yoga clothes underneath, so I'm always yoga ready.
What are you doing tonight?
I'm teaching.
Where are you teaching?
At a yoga school here in Boulder.
So do you ever teach like normal yoga? Because you have a specialty here.
Question. Yeah, I have a specialty.
What is your special? So tell us, this is a very serious subject, but we're allowed to have fun. Okay. What is, well, because you're clearly not going to not have fun.
I'm clearly not.
Yeah. So what is Y12SR?
Very good.
Your organization.
I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
You did.
You're not quite as dumb as I seem.
So Y12SR is the yoga of 12-step recovery.
Okay.
And so it's this combination of yoga and the 12-step program in order to be a piece of what I love to call a sustainable platform for addiction recovery.
So if anyone has questions for Nikki at any time, please ask him. If you're just tuning in, say where you're from. And if you're supportive of talking about addiction and working with it mindfully and actually working with it powerfully, give it a like or a love or a funny face emoticon. That helps it get out. And then we also, in the comments, are putting info. Oh, it looks like we already did. About a month long, about a big thing that's coming up. So check out the comments. So I want to get to the whole, we're going to talk about the opioid crisis, about addiction generally. You wrote a great article on Elephant that I just read for the first time.
Even though it was written in 2014.
Well, I might have read it in 2014 and forgotten, but I don't think so. So it was about the samskaras. Can you tell me what is a very confusing word, but it's a very exciting subject.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And in terms of
close the door.
In terms of this conversation about addiction, one of the things I love to do is broaden the perspective of addiction. Normally when you say addiction, mind usually goes to substance or, alcohol or drugs or something like that. And part of Y12SR, part of what we want to do is broaden that whole definition. Right. So it's far beyond substance. It's far beyond, there are also what we call process or behavioral addictions. And, there are numbers around what we were speaking to, because it's the current pandemic, the opioid crisis. But when you couple that with numbers from other addictions as well, and the destruction and the tearing up of families and the death with that, the numbers are insane relative to all that. So back to your question about samskaras.
Yeah. So samskaras is something we all work with.
Absolutely.
All of us. Everyone watching this.
As a matter of fact, in a way, addiction is something we all work with because of this.
I love this. I love this because often I grew up in the Buddhist tradition.
Yep.
We talk about samskaras as well.
Yep. And attachment.
And attachment, which is one of the 3 root poisons in Buddhism. Yeah. The other 2 are being a jerk and being a putz. So in Buddhism, we talk a lot about depression or habitual patterns or all these things. And when we talk about it with the elephant community, often people are like, no, you're not going through depression. Depression is a clinical thing and you can't talk about it. And while that's true, and I totally understand there's chemical issues in this, everyone can go through addiction. Everyone can go through depression, and it may not look like the opioid crisis or whatever. We all can learn from what you're about to tell me, and I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, no, that's all right. But here's the big statement. And, at some point when I'm doing trainings and teaching and all that, I usually make this statement and, it kind of throws things, right?
Yeah.
That we're all addicted to the way we process our reality.
Right. Wow. That should be the new title for this video. I love this.
And that we really are.
And I love this because if you admit it, just like probably in alcoholism.
Come on, give it to me.
I was intimidated by your high five. High five with Nikki.
Give
me another chance.
Give it to
another
me.
third chance. That was worse.
That was better. That was a little better. Give it to me, though. That was the mom. That's it.
All right.
That's it.
So I'm addicted to my way of and my speediness and my
worldview,
neuroses and my prejudices. So what do I do now?
Now, there's a good question. Well, the first thing is what you just said. Once I admit it, that's why I love the 12-step program in conjunction with this. Step one of the 12-step program is admitting, right? Okay. And the idea is once I admit it, then there's a possibility to see beyond it. Right? It's like what I talk about all the time. This is kind of the Matrix. We're kind of,
and show me a spoon and then,
the binary. We live in good, bad, right, wrong, inferior, superior. This was what I was writing about.
Right. Yeah. Good memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you just write that same article everywhere? Is that why you remember it?
No, that was a good one, though.
I thought we were the only one.
You were the only one.
You repeated word for word what you wrote 3 years ago.
But I can't help it. That was good stuff. I almost said the word. You almost
said
shit, right?
Oh. You almost said shit. Good thing you didn't. Okay, there's a lot of comments. Anyone who comments, we will get to them as long as they're interesting. Sorry. Okay.
Kind of the good, bad, right, wrong. And once I admit that, once I admit that I live in the Matrix, because I do, right, then there's a possibility to see beyond it. There's a possibility to sit, but you can't do it.
So you're saying we split up the whole world into binary things, good, bad, yummy, gross, whatever, attractive, boring, whatever. And I was about to say, is that bad? Is that problematic in some way?
It's problematic when we don't get that there's something beyond it, right? I'm going to do, I think I wish I could say it was my quote, but I think it's a Jesus thing, right?
Well, this is on the internet, so literally you can just steal quotes all you want.
Said, we're in it, and we got to know we're in it, but we don't have to be of it. Right, so I don't have to live up, and but I am in it. So
one of my favorite quotes by Abraham Lincoln or Gandhi or Einstein
is what
you said. They all said that.
Oh, they all did.
On the internet, everyone said this. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. I love it, but that's the idea. I got to admit that I'm in it, right, and then there's a possibility,
right. Because that's awareness. That's the first step in meditation.
It's the first step in the 12-step program.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
So in meditation, you just sit down and you become aware of your thoughts. And before you do anything about anything, you just have to be aware. And then you're like, oh my God, there's thousands of thoughts in my mind.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Running my life.
And I don't have to attach to any one of them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is so interesting. So meditation and yoga can actually help with addiction?
Yes.
Because addiction is pretty intense, like drug addiction.
Pretty intense. Right, it's pretty
intense.
Alcohol,
yeah.
Now, the way that we work with it in Y12SR, it's based in, there's a Yoga Sutra from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, right? And there's one, it's Yoga Sutra 216. And that Yoga Sutra says, Heya Dukkha Anagatam. And what that means is future suffering can be avoided.
Heya Dukkha Anagata.
Anagatam.
Anagatam.
Yes.
Future suffering can be avoided.
Future suffering can be avoided.
Yeah.
Right? And so the idea of this is I want to avoid the suffering that I know relapse brings. We call this a relapse prevention.
You go around and around and around.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not for detox. It's not for any of that level of intensity.
Right.
This is for relapse prevention. Someone who has decided that they want something different. Right. These are tools to support them so that, I don't fall back into the samskaric trap. the pattern.
But don't most addicts, I'm just speaking on my personal experience, not as a drug or alcohol addict, but in terms of my addictive behavior, I definitely want to change my habitual patterns, but then I just go around and around and around somehow. And so how do you get out of that?
Right. And so those are the tools that we support people.
That's powerful work.
In adopting in their lives, right? First, like you said before, awareness, right? And that I can begin to notice pretty quickly, which is why we always bring it back to the body, because our body's going to tell us first.
Oh, right. Your video started with an Adil Palkavala quote about yoga isn't about the body. It's about I forget the quote.
I've forgotten it too.
Anyway, it's about our entire life, not just our physical fitness.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's right. And so the model we use is from, in Y12SR is one from the Upanishads. So we use all the sacred texts. And that's the 5-body model. And so we look to develop a framework for sustainable addiction recovery that's based on that 5-body model.
What's the 5-body thing?
Gotcha. What a great question.
Incisive questions from Waylon.
Incisive questions.
What's the 5-body thing?
All right. So this comes from the Upanishads. And it says that we're not one body, but they're 5. And the 5 bodies are first the structure, the physical body. Okay. The second one is energy or emotion, right? That body. I tell people when they go to a doctor and they take their heart rate, their blood pressure, all those kinds of things, the vitals. Right. They're measuring energy.
That's like the second body?
That's the second one.
Okay.
Right.
So physical body.
Physical body, energy body.
Energy or health, vitality.
Yeah, vitality is a perfect way to say it.
Well, you said that.
I did. I love,
I love how you said it. Yeah. Okay.
The third body is the thinking body, it's called monomyculture. And that's the intellect, or the intelligent mind, if you will.
Third body.
Right, that's third. Fourth is what the yogis speak of as character or personality or so if you think of monomaya, which is the intellect, its function is to coordinate things that come from the outside in, because it monitors everything that comes in via your 5 senses.
Your handling stuff.
That's right.
Isn't that more your personality?
Nope. Your personality.
I feel like my personality handles stuff, and my character is like driving
But the mind, though, the function of the mind is to coordinate what comes in via the 5 senses. Okay. So to coordinate, where I am in space, and anything that comes in via, because the only way in here is via the 5
We're
senses.
getting like a free session with Nikki Myers.
I love this.
Learning so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And typically our interviews, like, the last interview I did, so bad. Because we have a guest star right here. Rob Schwer was just on the other day. Wonderful man. All right.
His interview was not bad. Tell the truth.
No, he was wonderful.
See?
He is wonderful.
See?
Yeah.
All right. So we're at 4th body.
Okay.
Right. So mine outside in, 4th body is inside out. So according to the ancients, this is where your personality, your values, psycho-emotional states, all of that kind of stuff sit that one.
We have a pot shop 2 doors down. I feel like we should make a run. This is getting pretty deep.
Don't you love it?
That's probably not funny humor for a yoga.
Yeah.
Is humor allowed? Are you allowed to have your reverent humor? Okay.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. 5th body, heart.
Okay.
But not the blood pump. This is
the caring,
the
empathy?
Spiritual heart, right?
Okay.
Right. See the love and devotion, and joy,
love.
And all that good stuff, right? And so the ancients say that when we're whole and balanced, that there's alignment or integration between and among those 5 bodies. But when there's not, when there's misalignment, that the system opens itself up, and then in that state, disease, dysfunction, disharmony, all the disses can get into the system.
And that makes practical sense. When we're stressed out, we're caught up in our mind, we're not exercising or eating, we're standing up, eating fast food.
It's easier to get a cold.
Then you get sick.
It's easier.
You get stressed out.
Yeah. Exactly.
You look old before your time, that kind of thing. Like stress makes us old in a funny way,
right.
unless we deal with stress.
That's right. That's right. And so we assert that any true platform for sustainable addiction recovery needs to cover all 5 of those bodies. You need to have tools and resources to realign and rework with all 5 of those bodies.
But then you take like the 12 steps and somehow those two systems work together.
Yeah. The 12 steps are very cognitive, right? Now, I don't suggest that they're the only thing that can serve in that cognitive
They're
role.
pretty popular. It seems like they kind of work for...
And they're free. That's why I love to work with them. It's not big money. It's something that, people go into a church basement and put $1 in a basket, right? And so if you got $1, I always tell you, you're more important than your money. And so one of the big reasons that I did this work to couple these was for that reason. I wanted to get at a population that may not have access to big money.
Can I ask, and you can not answer, but how did you get involved in this?
Why
and how?
Yeah. It's out of my own lived experience. Okay. So this is you ready to go here?
I don't know.
All right.
But I asked.
All right, you asked.
I got what's coming to me.
You asked. You get what's coming. All right. So, for me, it was there's a phrase we use in the program: jails, institutions, and death. Right. Jails, institutions, and death. Right. Okay. And so my first 34 years in life, I was in the throes. I started, in the throes of addiction when I was 13. Right? Wow. Yeah.
At 13.
Yeah. Well, that was the beginning, and then it went downhill a lot of the ways from that point on. Okay. And we're just going to suffice it to say that in the throes of addiction.
So personal experience.
Lived experience. Right. So in the throes of addiction, for me, there was domestic violence. There was commercial sex work. Wow. There was, pretty much that phrase, jails, institutions, and death. And the death, by the time I
feel like that's a badass tattoo or necklace or something.
Yeah. And so it was all of that brought me.
Do you know the story of King Ashoka, the Indian king? It kind of reminds me of his story because he was like the great king in Indian history in real life. And he was this murderous conquering king, and he conquered army after army. And one day he was walking through a battlefield after a battle, and there were just corpses everywhere and dead horses and just the smell of blood and death. And he just had this moment of it was lived experience for him, and he was like, what am I doing? And there happened to be a monk walking by, doing the last rites or whatever. Not I'm doing the Catholic, but like a Buddhist monk. And he said, is there a path out of aggression and craving and ignorance?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for.
We ain't done yet. Hey, watch out.
No rush.
So I found recovery. Right, the 12-step program. I always love to say how the 12-step program saved my life. And I'm
so how did you hear about or find the 12-step program?
I was by this time 34, and I found a friend of mine who I had been in the streets with had found the 12-step program.
So 2 decades of lived experience before you connected with the 12-step program.
Yeah. And then I found my way in the 12-step program, and lots of great things started happening in my life. I got my kids back. I went back to school. Wow. I got an MBA. I got an undergrad degree.
This sounds really naive. I am super naive, so I might be offensive here, but I want to ask you if I may. Okay. Were you just so happy after you're doing the 12 steps? Suddenly you get your kids back and your life back and you're entering education.
It's interesting.
You have a whole new life.
Yeah, it is really interesting.
Or was it just so hard, everything, or both?
The interesting piece of that question is, through all the doing and accomplishment and all that, I could never touch joy. And there's a neurological reason for that. When you're in the throes of addiction, your dopamine receptors shut down, and dopamine is the neurotransmitter that gives us a sense of satiation and joy and pleasure. and they shut down, right? And
do they die or just they kind of turn off?
Well, my teacher says the answer to everything is it depends. So it depends. You know, there's so much craziness now in the world of drugs and substances that there's a lot of things we don't even know the long-term effects about. But some things we do.
But you have a lot of joy right now. Seems like.
Do.
Yeah.
I do.
So it somehow came back.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it gets to your what you asked earlier about yoga and meditation. I think meditation is and yoga have a big deal to do with that. Mm. Yeah. But can I finish the story?
Please,
Come on, real quick. We're about to get quick, right? Because it's interesting. It gets at the samskara thing, right? So 8 years clean, lots of good things start happening. I graduated, got my MBA. I was doing great work, all this good stuff. And
nice.
And I was working for a company, a software company, and they sent me on a business trip and to a place in Germany. And very long story short, I relapsed in Germany. So I'm clean for 8 years.
Wow.
And I relapsed started with alcohol. Mm. And by the time that trip was over, I found my way to Amsterdam. And the big deal was even after 8 years without a drink or a drug in my body, once I got to Amsterdam, I knew exactly what to do, exactly where to go, exactly how to talk. I morphed back into the pattern.
Well, because you got skill, you developed skills even in that, samskara.
In that samskaric state, right? And so then I'm back in the throes again. I finally make it back to the States. That was when I reunited with yoga, right? And so first it was a Bikram practice and an Ashtanga practice and got really deep in that.
Wow.
And then I'm into this about 4 years and I decide that I don't need the 12-step program anymore. That yoga's going to do it for me. I don't need anything else. And just, this is all I need.
So first all 12 steps, then all yoga.
And then after that one I relapsed again.
Wow.
And it was after the second relapse that I discovered that these things need to be married.
Yeah.
Right? They need to support, they do support each other. And I need to use them in a way that they do support each other. So it was out of that all the work.
Wow. Well, what a path.
No shit.
Joining all that. Yes, I think at this point. So joining those two together, that is like historic work. That's like so Trungpa Rinpoche, do you know Chogyam Trungpa? He wrote a bunch of Buddhist stuff.
Absolutely.
He's my parents' teacher. He wrote The Coming Together of East and West is where the sparks will fly. And that's like the 12-step and yoga coming together. That's like joining two continents together.
I love that. I love that quote.
You did all that.
Yeah, I love that quote. That's a great quote.
And have you seen those two complement and really help other folks?
I do.
In a way that individually they couldn't?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In many, many, many ways. Mm-hmm. In this whole thing of relapse prevention, just giving people with some of the yogic tools to use. One of the things we look to do in Y12SR is take, these little program phrases, if you will, and turn them into what we call embodiments, right? So there's something that I can feel in my body, right?
And that comes back to the 5 bodies. It's not just an intellectual thing.
It's not
you're
just
embodied. You're practicing.
You can intellect your way into a coffin, right? And I know a lot of people that have done, unfortunately, that's been the path, right? So it's got it, from my perspective and what I've seen and working with now, I don't even thousands of folks, right, with this, that it has to be more than just an intellectual undertaking.
Wow. Whew. Whew. So, can I ask you another question?
Of course.
I feel like I'm in a classroom. So, trauma. You talk about trauma. I mean, you certainly went through like a couple decades of this stuff. How do you work with that?
Yeah.
Because I look at you now, you seem all happy. Like, if I didn't know any of your story, I'd be like, wow, you're a fun, cool lady doing cool stuff, which you are. But with that past, does that feel like an anchor that weighs you down or baggage?
Not
or
at
how
all.
do you work with
it? Let me tell you how. Because it feels neutral. It feels totally neutral. That I know that this is a part of the path, right? it's a part of my path, right? And it's neutral. And so is, on the flip side of that, MBA, founder of Y12SR, that's neutral too. It's all neutral.
Right, so it's not good and bad.
It's not good or bad or right or wrong. I love to say that all of that stuff informs my walk in the world. None of it defines me. None of it defines me. Right. And so, and for me, I knew when I was done with it because it was neutral. I can talk about my time in commercial sex work and that whole thing, like I talk about my Volkswagen Beetle, which I am kind of attached to my Beetle.
Right.
I look damn cute in that car.
I think you look damn cute without your car. So, yeah, in Buddhism, Trungpa Rinpoche would talk about it like the manure of experience, that all of experience, good or bad, or both, or whatever, is fertilizer. If we relate to it mindfully, it's fertilizer for...
That's it.
Like you turn literally, you're like embodiment of this, you turn your neuroses or habitual patterns or samskaras or whatever from poison. Peacock is a symbol of it for some reason. I think peacocks have some ability to transmute poison into the colors in their feathers.
Wow.
So that's like the classical symbol of it.
I love it.
I don't know what kind of poison we're talking about, but
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll have to look that
So it
up.
becomes the adornment and the embellishment and your offering to the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if folks want to connect with you or with, oh my God.
Come on.
Y12SR.
Very good.
Thank
I
you.
love it.
That's right.
That was a good one.
I'm getting nervous.
Yeah,
I'm nervous. So how can they do that?
Easiest way is web. www.y12sr.com. And I'm Nikki at y12sr.com. So.
Okay, Nikki with an I. We'll put that all in the comments and in the captions, all that. So do you do these courses all around the world?
Yeah.
Or do people go like study with you at some Y12SR college? That's what it feels like it should be. Like a pilgrimage.
I love it. I love it. No, I do workshops all around the world. And
but how is that enough? Because a workshop, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. They're listed on the website. Okay. Yeah.
Right. On the tour t-shirts, you can get the black, like, rock star tour t-shirts, like your dates, where you're going.
Well, we do have something like that.
That'd
and
be
the
fun.
caption on the back says, for real, for real.
For real, for real?
Yeah.
But one workshop can't be enough. I mean, how do folks travel this path?
What we do is we train addiction professionals and yoga teachers to offer what are called Y12SR meetings in their home communities, right? And so a Y12SR meeting looks like a discussion group based in the 12 steps. And then directly after it is this trauma-informed themed yoga practice based in whatever the discussion was, right? So we create this trauma-informed themed practice basically. So it looks kind of like a 12-step meeting in a way, but it's not, right? It kind of looks like that. And then directly after that is this trauma-informed, directly before or after. It doesn't matter. It just matters that the two are combined. It doesn't matter which one's
first. So you do some yoga and you do some talking.
That's right. Or you do some talking, some discussion, and then you do some yoga. And it's a very specific, say, trauma-informed theme practice. The theme of Y12SR is the issues live in your tissues. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that these classes support releasing the issues that live in the tissues. So there's some really special things in that to support releasing the issues in the tissues.
So if you're a parent or a family member or you have a loved one who's going through addiction and you send them a link to Y12SR and their reaction is like, oh, yoga is really going to help me with addiction, sure.
Yeah.
How would you respond to that?
I asked them to come to a Y12SR meeting because Y12SR is not based in one addiction. All addictions are in the room at the same time. So including if I'm addicted to another person, right? So, there are programs for that, Al-Anon and CODA and all of those kinds of things relative to that. But in
I don't know what
this,
you just said. What was that? Al-Anon and...
CODA is Codependence Anonymous, which could be a whole nother conversation all in and of itself.
Sure.
Right?
Well, come on back.
I'd love to. I'd love to. So you get everything in the room at the same time. You get every form. Everyone's
welcome.
And everyone's welcome. And so you
that
get
must
to hear
make it
this from
intense too, because you're not just focusing on one.
You're focusing on because my experience with this is, if you don't get at the root, right? And the root, you know, we could talk about that from a yogic perspective too. I know you'd love that, right?
Sure.
But if you don't get at the root, then you end up doing what I did, which is play whack-a-mole. We'll call it whack-a-mole. So, you know, I swatted down drugs and alcohol, and then money popped up.
Right.
You know, and
it's like you need to put that issues in your tissues somewhere. And then you whack that one down, and food pops up, and then you whack that one down, and another one pops up until you get at root. Right. And so this supports the whole idea of getting underneath. And what the root of addiction is. So maybe we should take some questions. I'd love to. From the people. Alrighty. So if you have any questions, go for it. Looks like you have a friend or a colleague commenting. Mish. Oh. Do you know Mish Caldwell? That's my daughter. That's your daughter? That's my daughter. Oh, I'm giving her a like. I wish I could give you more, but all right. So she just left the email address if y'all want to. Oh, she's on it. Yeah, she's on it. Lindsay's on it. All right. Evelyn has a question. She's a very short question. Her question is normal yoga. So what kind of yoga are you doing? Great question. Yeah. Again, it's this trauma-informed themed yoga practice. And there's many things that go into that trauma-informed thing. My training comes from yoga. I'm a yoga therapist, and so it's infused with a lot of things from yoga therapy. The basis of my training, though, is Vinyasa, and my two biggest teachers in the world are Gary Craftsall and Sean Korn. So those are my two biggest influences. Yeah. I feel like I remember you around Sean, or Sean talking about you or something. I bet Sean and I have been close for a long time. Yeah. And who was the other one? Gary Craftsall. Oh yeah, Gary. Yeah. I only know him from Yoga Journal conferences, but great. Yeah, those are my two biggest influences. How cool. I do remember you. We're at Yoga Journal conferences up at Estes or somewhere else maybe? Yeah, many times it is. Yeah. Okay, I remember you. All right. So lots of compliments, people saying where they are, blah, blah, blah. Great topic. Okay, any questions? Question from Valinda Yoga. Yes, are we addicted to our own beliefs and reactions? Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Addicted to our own worldview. Or, right, I'm addicted to being liberal. I'm addicted to being conservative. I'm addicted to being right. I'm addicted to whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Not recognizing that, my big thing I tell myself all the time is, I don't know what I don't know, right? That's another t-shirt. You need that on a t-shirt. Right? And so what keeps me in this game is recognizing that I don't know what I don't know, but there's always going to be some other little piece in there that this is a limited database that even throws out things that are irrelevant to it. An example about my daughter. She called me up one time and said, will you stop by the CVS, the drugstore that's on the corner of this, and I argued with her up and down. There's no CVS because it threw it out, right? Yeah. And it's not like there wasn't one there, but it wasn't relevant to me. And because it wasn't relevant to me, I discarded that it was. And we do this all the time. You mean you didn't know that it was there because you didn't care about it? So that's right. It wasn't relevant to me. And we do this all the time, right? This is always going on, right? Yeah. And so that's the piece of it, in recognition that that's the piece that's always going on. Yeah. In Buddhism, they talk about, I don't remember it quite, so my mom will yell at me, but it's like 3 classes of people from our neuroses. One class is people we're attracted to, or not necessarily sexually, but in some way we want to be around them, or we want what they have, a mentor, someone you're attracted to, whatever. So that's clinging. Yeah. And then there's people you can't stand. aggression, you want them to get away or they irritate you or whatever. And then, but the class that we always forget about is sort of like what I think of as like the wallflower class, like the class you don't care, people who are kind of irrelevant to you and you just ignore them.
Yeah.
And you literally don't see them. And there's so many of those people in our daily lives who we almost consciously are unconscious about. We're like, you know, some people are like that with the homeless, like, I don't see you. Or the elderly, I don't, you know, whatever it is.
That's right. That's right.
And that's equally important to pay attention to, because the first two are easy. There's passion, there's aggression.
That's right.
Anyway, all right. Can I get a witness? There's some, yeah, that's good. All right. Question from Kim. This is probably going back to something we were talking about, but what happens when you're in it and aware of it? We were talking about being in it, not, or being of it, not just in it.
Right.
So her question is, what happens when you're in it and aware of it? I guess maybe in that transition where you're in it, but you're beginning to be aware of it.
Yeah. And I'm thinking she's speaking relative to the addiction.
Yeah, when you're still in it, but you are aware that you're addicted, but you can't maybe get out.
Yeah. So this is my thing about asking myself the question all the time. What's most important to me, right? And then looking at what the yogis say, we got three things that we can work with, right? We got our thoughts, our speech, and our actions.
Yeah.
Those are the three things that we can't control them. So don't be in the illusion of control. But the three things we got to
control
work with,
never works.
It will never work. It's an illusion, right? Right? You know, try and control your thoughts. It ain't gonna happen, right? So those are three things you got to work with. So my thing is really getting a sense of what is important to me. And then asking myself continually the question, is this thought, speech, action, it's serving what I say is most important to me?
So instead of being stuck in the moment, feeling that addiction, that want, you intellectually say what is important to me.
That's one way. Is
serving it?
Right. And ask, is this next action that I'm contemplating serving what I say is most important?
Where I want to get.
That's right.
Or who I want to be.
That's right. That's right. And then using a set of tools, right? We get hopefully a set of tools. And if you're in it, in that deep in the addiction, you know, there is, sometimes you need a Roto-Rooter is what you know, sometimes you really do. So if it's a detox issue.
Is that the thing that like drills open your pipes or something? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. If it's a detox issue, you need to go to a detox in order to support.
You need a break.
You need, yes.
Yeah. You can't just be in it all the time.
That's right. That's right. You need something that's going to support that process.
But then you can still relapse when you come back from that sort of detox break place. So at some point you have to be able to like ground it in your everyday life.
That's right. That's right. And that's where I love to think Y12SR fits in more. Once you've been through the initial process, the original thought with Y12SR, it's turned into something completely different, which is an interesting conversation. Sure. But the original thought was to support people who came out of treatment. How do you make that transition into your daily life? What can you use for tools now that you're in your daily life? That this was a piece of a platform to serve that. Right. But like I said, it's turned into something completely different over the course. It's been around now for a minute. And so... And
you can find a meeting in most places in the U.S. or...
A lot of places in the U.S. I don't even know how many there are. But if you look on Y12SR.com under meetings, it tells you where meetings are. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Do you have a book?
That's the sore subject. I've been working on a book. I am working on a book. I'm gonna commit and say very, very soon.
So I can give you some tips on that. Because I literally teach a course on this.
Oh, you need to help me.
Because you sound like me, where you start books, but books become this huge project, and then you're busy and you're doing awesome stuff in your daily life, and you just kind of never get quite around to it. So I wound up serializing it, which is like what Charles Dickens did. It was nothing new that I thought of. It's just you publish one blog at a time, wherever you want. It could be your own private blog even. I did it on Elephant for my book, which is the red one.
And you're going to give me a copy of that, aren't you?
We'll see.
And so you did what?
So I did one chapter at a time, and I got real-time feedback from people, which really helped me connect and keep the reader in mind. And then when I was done with the number of chapters I wanted, or the story, then I just put it together in a book. And then suddenly I was done.
See,
but I couldn't ever sit down and write a whole book on my own. I think some social type people, or at least I was, needed that, like, am I connecting? Am I off? Am I on? It really helped me to break it up. So one chapter at a time, break it down. Break it down.
Then it's sooner, then it's closer than I thought. If that's because I got a bunch of things.
Exactly. That's what I'm always saying to my friend Peggy Markell, who's a slow food chef. She's like, never published a book. She's huge in the whole foodie, slow food world. Never published a book, and it's such a thing in her mind. And I'm like, you've already written 35 amazing things. Put them all together. They all work. They all have recipes and a story and blah blah.
It's closer than I thought from that perspective.
And all you need then is a good editor. And the good editor is not necessarily a great editor. A good editor is a friend who cares, or a colleague who cares, who's super aggressive about organization and getting you.
Pointing at you.
No, I would be you need someone who's like type A and organized.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Lindsay, who works with Elephant, did it for me with my book, and I couldn't have done it without her. But I had many different. It's not that hard to find that person. I had many different people help, and they were all great. Lindsay just kind of took it over and was amazing.
I love it.
But you can't have her.
You've helped me tremendously.
Actually, you can't have her. I mean, you can't have her, but such
You've
a good
helped
cause.
me tremendously. Oh my
well,
God.
hopefully that's interesting to anyone because everyone has their story and wants to write something, it seems like. Someone said your strength embodied, I guess, your embodied strength is inspiring. Everyone loves you. Everyone's saying they love you. My greatest trauma from Allison was a fuel and catalyst for awakening. Thank you, beautiful, for sharing. Great approach to healing from Nikki. Carrie and Ray, this is Carrie or Ray, saying, what is the addiction?
Oh,
just a little question.
Just a little question, right? You'll recognize this term from Buddhism, avidya, right?
Ignorance.
Right, but not so much ignorance, stupid. It's almost the ignorance like we were talking about. Don't know when I don't know that I don't know.
Avidya is absence of vidya. I went to Vidya elementary school. Vidya was like, if I remember, it's some sort of knowledge or insight or something.
Vidya means knowledge.
Okay.
You put the A in front of it, means not.
Right.
So not knowledge. Right. So misperception. It's the way that it's described in yoga, false understanding or perception.
But why does it feel that addiction feels so embodied? If it's
hang on.
Okay.
Yeah. We misperceive, but he asked for the root.
Yeah.
Right. And the root is we misperceive who it is we are. That we get in my big example of this is me. How often I was in relationship with an image rather than being in relationship with. I was in relationship with myself as an image of for let's say a teacher or a mother or this or that, and my relationship with myself was based in being in relationship with that image.
Right.
Or that idea.
Yeah.
Right. So
am I living up to my idea of myself?
And that's not who we are.
Right.
Right. And so
it reminds me of people, I want to say Oprah or someone who's like battling with their weight and they want to be this image, but in some way that's like almost a violence to who they are.
That's right. Okay. Right. And so where that crosses the 12-step program, the 12-step program will say that the root of addiction is stinking thinking. And it's the same thing. Stinking thinking is this misperception and this misperceiving.
Then why does it feel so
who we are?
Sorry.
Right. Well, because there are all these other things that are going on, especially when you're speaking to a substance, right? When I'm talking about all addiction and the root of all addiction.
Right.
But when you're talking about a substance,
about the fundamental root.
I'm talking about the fundamental root.
Got it.
but because you got to deal with that, right? Even when the substance goes away, right? And what happens with
if you want to be real, you got to deal.
That's what I'm talking. Damn, that was good.
Trying to get Nikki Myers there. Look, it's frozen. It was frozen and I was doing high five.
I love it. I hope we got a pic of that because that was good, right? But you know, when it's substance related, like particularly in this opioid crisis, your brain gets hijacked.
Right.
I mean, hijacked.
Exactly.
Hijacked.
Yeah.
Right. And
instead of seeking, like, it's like if you're dying of thirst, you go for drugs. Instead, it's like everything gets wired.
Hijacked.
Yeah.
Absolutely hijacked.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and in some ways, not to that extent, it happens with any addiction, right? Your brain, things get hijacked.
Right.
Right. And so the idea, again, according to both the 12-step program and yoga, is that really is this stinking thing, this misperception that is the root that would cause us to go for and hijack, right? It's the root of things, according to that. That's a deep question. Whoever asked it, we could talk about that for, can't even put a time frame on it.
Yeah, exactly. And all of this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So there's a million comments, but everyone just give a like or a love or a funny face emoticon to Nikki. Appreciation for your time.
Thank you.
You're so inspiring. I totally remember you with Sean now. It's all coming back.
It's all coming back to me now.
Sean loves to hate on my socks, and I'm wearing a particularly awful pair of socks that Sean would hate.
I can understand. I mean,
her judgment.
I won't go as strongly as hate, but those are real interesting socks, Waylon.
In my defense, they were given to me. I didn't seek them out. They found me. But that may say more about me than the other way around. Nikki, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for asking me.
And there is info for her site and for the big day coming up.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Nikki, thank you. Please come back.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yay.
Nikki Myers. Nice work. That was